5:30. If you'll please stand for the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Everybody's microphones on. Good evening. Today is Monday, September 20th, the time being 5:30 p.m. This is a special meeting of the Greensburg City Council. Amy, would you please call the roll?
Jamie Kane.
Here.
Rick Gensweller.
Here.
Diane McKenzie. Here. Kevin Fleetwood.
Here.
Daryl Coley.
Great, and I know Daryl's on his way. He may be a few minutes late. We'll go ahead and get started. This is our second round of the budget workshops, and I know Thursday last week I sent out everybody the updated sort of version. Some of that relates to a big portion of our conversation from last time we met to discuss this topic. So I think we'll just go ahead and go straight to the fire department conversation that we discussed last time, the conversation about the base raise for employees, frontline employees being 3%, and there was a conversation about combining the certification pay for the firefighters who have certain certifications, and I'll let the chief talk about this more than me.
EMT, rope rescue, and hazmat tech.
Right, into the base salary as part of that. So,
Well, can I make something, I'm making a suggestion real quick first, and then we'll make things easier going forward. There was a suggestion to increase the EMT base pay. I guess my vote is that we don't increase the EMT base pay because it's a condition of employment. So just maybe we start with that one and throw that one on the table unless anybody disagrees with that. Because we're calling that a condition of employment going forward, right? So because there was a suggestion to increase the EMT survey.
That is correct, as well as the first responder.
Right, yeah, so I think we, well, I think we, and we don't want to encourage somebody to be a first responder, we want to encourage them to get the EMT cert, so I don't
Correct.
think we want to increase those certs.
And base requirement now is EMT. It is those that are still first responders or holdovers that have been grandfathered in are the ones that are on that line item of the budget.
Which one is it,
Let's say first responder certification, it is 114.
what's the current first responder survey?
Currently, it is at, I believe it's $150. And I increased that to 500, so that would be around 200 per first responder.
I mean, I guess my suggestion is that we don't increase those, is, because we're talking about doing, maybe moving these in with the base pay, but my suggestion is that we wouldn't increase those.
Okay.
Those would be, so if we're gonna increase EMT pay, what we're doing is we're increasing their base salary, right? And that's part of their,
EMT is only a stipend currently.
it's considered, so, but if we're gonna give EMT, if we're talking about even potentially rolling EMT, it's hazmat tech and rope rescue, I think, are the three, right?
Correct, and then the cert initiative pay.
And the cert initiative pay, those four. But if those are all requirements of doing the job right now, so a new hire has to have those within the first year, correct?
Correct.
So I don't think we want to increase those as cert pays. How you do that is you slowly, over time, you increase your base pay, and that's,
Correct.
these are requirements.
Which is what we're looking at as well.
The piece with rolling it into the base pay, just, Kevin's comment, it's not exactly a wash. I think Kevin's comment last time, because it would be, I think it's 17.5% of that would go from, we pay that more in perf, that much more in perf. And then you'd pay longevity over that. So if you take the overall fire department, I guess longevity is probably average somewhere 9-10 years, right? The average, Brian?
You could say the average is about 9 years, yeah.
So, I mean, just take, if you just took 10 for an easy number,
Yeah,
but it's 9,
10
10,
makes it easy.
so you'd pay 10% more on longevity with that as well. So if you took the 2,000, you're gonna add another 27.5% to that. So it's not exactly a wash. I think the others were already paying for it, whether it's, I mean, like
Which others?
like the other, like FICA, Medicare, those are already
Yes.
coming out of it
Those all
based on
come out of
the pay, so it's, I don't think those would really change.
No, those would not change, and those percentages are much less than what the FERC percentage has. One other thing that this would do is it also, in trying to keep things equal, is this would bring us up with pay parity with law enforcement. Currently, their base pay is $14.77 more, so $1,477 more, to bring up law enforcement and fire, both the public safety roles, to be parity with each other. So then, if we did do 3% across the board, and in all fairness, then everybody is truly and equally fair. If we choose not to look at rolling in the 3%, obviously, but then rolling in that CERT pay itself. And part of that CERT pay is already being paid because everybody on our department is getting CERT pay of some type or another. So there are no employees that are receiving zero CERT pay. 27 are receiving the EMT, all 30 or almost 30, I believe, except our new guys, because we haven't had a class yet, are getting hazmat tech, and it's the same for rope rescue. So as that goes, most of the department is being rewarded for that stipend pay to start with.
I mean, the only other comment, I think Brian and I had some conversations about this too, though. I think that, just putting in perspective, we made EMT, rope rescue, and hazmat tech, and then that certain incentive pay a requirement and within the first year. If you go to the police department, they don't have any of those requirements for certain pays where they require, they made it part of the job. And I know why we did this, because originally when we started rolling these in, they weren't part of the job. We were trying to encourage and incentivize this. So it's not quite apples to apples, right? So
Which
there's
is
that
why,
opportunity.
which is when I would then suggest the 1477 added on to the base to at least bring parity with law enforcement.
The only thing I've been thinking about to make sure we gotta figure this out, if we do end up saying we're gonna do this, how do we ensure, if we roll that into the base pay and then we take those certs out, how do we ensure that people don't go back and say, well, I'm not gonna maintain my EMT cert, I'm not gonna maintain my rope rescue? It's gotta be a main,
As you
you
said,
can't roll that
Jamie,
in and put that into.
so as you said, it is a condition of employment.
Right.
And at the fire department, we do performance evaluations. If they lose that, then they should be disciplined, up to and including termination. If it is a condition of your employment, as you say, and I totally agree with, if they don't maintain it, they don't maintain employment.
That would be my only concern if we come back and we say we're gonna do this, because I was thinking about this, we need to make sure we spell that out in
Right,
some way.
right.
It's gotta be wrote in.
Correct, it has to become a policy.
Right.
But with job performance evaluations, it's easy to do that. We can pull from our ACADIS portal, from the state keeps, who maintains our certifications. It's easy to say if anybody's kept up their EMT or not. If it's expired on the state website, then they would come to the board of works on a disciplinary hearing for not maintaining their job qualifications. We find somebody who can.
So the certs that are gonna be moved in are all certifications that are required.
Correct. And a lot of that is driven by Honda. Our new employees are required to go serve out at Honda. Honda requires that they be EMTs, that they be hazardous materials, that they be rope rescue technicians. So those are now, instead of being options, those are now job requirements. We roll that in and we get those within their first year of employment. We make sure if we can't find a class, then we host a class ourselves to bring those about.
Where the rub comes in there, Brian, and why I want to make sure that, we have several firefighters that wasn't a requirement when they were hired, but they've since went and got those certifications. So what I don't want is to put this into the base pay and then come back and say, well, that wasn't a condition when I was hired, so I'm not gonna maintain that certification now, because I've already got the money, right? And so we'd have to make sure that we figured out a way that it's written in there that you can't just decide you're gonna give that certification up, it's a requirement of the job, right? And I'm not sure how you word that, I hope you understand what I'm saying, or thinking.
For sure, and I mean, I think it is, it's your term of employment. You know, while, if you choose to be employed by Greensburg Fire, you will maintain X, Y, Z.
I know there's several that were hired before we mandated that have went and got those
Correct.
certifications, right? There's
Correct.
several, so, right?
We have more that have, as the bar has been raised, the majority have attained and surpassed the bar, and continue to do that as we continue to move forward.
And there are some that don't have those.
We have 3 that don't.
So
And
their
those,
base pay is gonna be less, is that correct?
no, their base pay would be the same.
If we rolled it into the base, then everybody would get it.
Those employees, those 3 employees have probably 3 to 5 years left. So they are all grandfathered employees, as in they are all 20-plus year employees already. None of our new employees or employees that have 15 plus or 15 minus years on do not have that, because that is a condition of their employment. And if it is necessary, we can go back and have those 3 employees then obtain those certifications.
How big of an issue would that be?
If you could ask me. EMT is going to be the most difficult and the most costly. The other 2 won't, because EMT is either a 2-week to a 6-month process, depending on where you go. And being employees, that's around $3,200 that we would, per person, that we would have to spend to do that.
And you said these were, how many years do these firefighters?
All of them have 20 plus, so all of them are pretty much at their retirement age, or they have their years of service, they might not have the age of retirement yet.
And are those years with Greensburg?
Yes. All 3 employees are lifelong Greensburg Fire employees.
Okay, I'm gonna think out loud.
Okay.
Okay, so I've been hashing this in my head for a week. These certifications are certifications that they've earned,
Yes.
it's part of their job.
It's not required by every fire department. We've required it because of because they go on and on.
Okay. But, I mean, what, are we the only fire department in the country that requires these kind of certifications?
No,
Probably
no, no,
not.
no.
No, not at all.
Okay, so, what, I'm gonna put myself in your shoes for a second, okay? So, I get a paycheck every week, every 2 weeks or whatever, and I get paid for rope rescue and EMT, that's part of my job. But then we're saying that, basically, you want this for retirement reasons, to where you go in because out of our control, the government says, well, you were only making this much money. If we don't do this, it's almost like you're saying that those were only important while you were there. It's like, I'm making this much money, and I've made this much money for my whole service of work, and now you're telling me that when I retire, I'm worth less?
Well, I made a little less, yeah.
I'm worth
Yeah,
less?
that would go, because those are only paid, those
That's
stipends
kinda how
are
I
paid.
see that. Am I like way off kilter
No,
here?
you're right.
Good point.
I mean, because I feel like I make a certain amount of money, you know, at my job. And when I retire, it's gonna be based off what I was making when I left, is that right?
Right, a percentage of what you made.
But, so the difference here though is, we're paying their perf on their base pay.
Right.
And we're
Right
paying
now.
longevity on their base pay. So you'll still pay, so if you put this on to their base, you're gonna pay longevity on it, you're gonna pay perf on
I
it, which is about
understand
another
that, but I'm still
27.5%.
saying that these particular jobs are being paid for those every paycheck.
Yes,
They're being
yes.
paid, but it's not going towards
Right,
their retirement.
right,
And if we accept this, then that will help their retirement.
right.
And you are correct, Vita, we are using this as a recruitment and retention tool both.
And I can
It
understand.
allows the 20-year guys to maybe stay a little bit longer, as well as it allows us to be more competitive. With that higher base pay, we can advertise that higher base pay and become more competitive with other departments in our area that we have lost people to. We've lost, just during my year and a half here, we've had 9 people go through retirements. 3 have left for higher pay. Most recently was a probationary guy with 8 months on. He didn't even finish probation and left for higher pay. And the other one were retirements, and we had and the other ones were retirements. And I don't know if they would have stayed longer if it would have been for that or not, and that's hard telling. But I know it is hard to recruit, especially with the new state law that says you can live anywhere in the state and work in any fire department you want. We know that we're not going to be competitive price point with Indianapolis Fire Department. But if you want to live here and drive that much, there's no more state law saying that you can't. So that hurts us. So we do have to look at other ways to be competitive. And while money doesn't fix everything, it is a good start.
It's why I work.
Right. Everybody needs a paycheck. So it is to be used as well as a recruitment and retention tool, so we can advertise and somewhat be competitive with other fire departments.
Other comments?
What are your thoughts?
I want to roll the search in.
So,
Well, even though it's not gonna help, yeah, I
well,
wanna
I
help
guess,
you guys.
I think that, I'm in favor, we just have to make sure that we condition that to where you can't, if you've got the search, you can't go back and, right,
Right.
let the search go. That's the,
And Kevin and Jamie, you guys are more than welcome to help me with a policy, whether we go through Chris or the HR lawyer to suffice that. I'm more than happy to sit down with you guys and hash that out, how we want to word that to make sure that that doesn't happen, and what type of checks and balances system as the council you guys would like to see to make that happen.
that's the only thing I've been thinking about, that I don't think we put.
Absolutely. We don't want to give unjust money, whereas,
Right.
that's
Well,
kind of.
because, there are several
Cheating the
people that
system.
went back and got these, and now they're gonna say, well, that's part of my base, and now you're not rewarding me for it, so I gotta maintain it.
Right.
And that's not the condition.
But that's because they do practice to certain.
Yes.
Correct.
So we have to.
Every so often, so.
So that we will need policy, and I invite you guys to help with that.
Other comments or thoughts?
I apologize for being late, I had my appointment, but Jamie and I had talked earlier today about this very thing. I am in favor of rolling the search into the bottom line. But I think Jamie does bring a very valid point, that we need to rewrite that someday.
Okay. We can note that. So what's the total, and I was trying to look this
So
up,
it was 2,000 is what we talked about.
is that is that what we want it to be?
It was 2250 was the number that I have, that I gave to Reed that Brian had done for us, and I've got that right here. Jamie said it's a different amount?
I thought we said 2,000 last meeting. But that's what Brian told us, the last meeting was 2,000.
It was 2250. It was that, EMT was 15, hazmat 250, road rescue 250, the incentive was 250.
Jamie, you want this?
I'm good, I was just trying to remember, I thought that's what I wrote down, that's all, maybe I wrote it down.
So just ignore my chicken scratch, and you can have this copy if you want.
Brian, Brian, 250 for hazmat.
250 hazmat, 250 rope rescue, 1,500 EMT, and 250 for the, if you had all three of those together, it's
Oh,
called
sure.
incentive service. Yeah.
Okay. And the EMT 1,500 is today's rate, not
That's
what
correct.
the proposed
That is
was.
correct.
Okay.
Maybe that's what, maybe I wasn't counting the cert incentive pay. That's what I was.
And is that something that needs to be looked at? If that's something that's, it's a requirement for the job, then why do you need an incentive to do it?
At the time, we had several firefighters that didn't have them, and we were trying to provide an incentive to go get all three, right? And then that allowed us to be able to rotate more people out of Honda. And so that was, I know at the time we did it, that's
That's
why we did
correct.
it. But, I mean, if we did 2,000, and by the time you pay perf and you pay longevity, it's still gonna cost us more than that 2,250, and I don't know if that, would that be maybe that's a compromise, I don't know. What do you think?
That's an additional 540 on
Well, I mean,
2,000.
if you did 2,000, but you roped in just the certs, and you don't rope in the cert incentive pay, but you put 2,000 on the base, not the 2,250. And then that helps cover some of the additional perf cost, longevity cost that's gonna go along with it.
So you're willing to go with 2,000 and wipe out the same four?
You say, what, yeah, I'm asking what the thought is on that, I mean, there's just, I think that's what you're suggesting, right? Or-
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
if you're saying that it's required for the job, then you shouldn't, I don't see where you get $250 for the incentive to do your job.
Oh, okay,
So-
all right, yeah, again, okay, so you're saying scratch just the cert incentive pay itself, and that was, Brian, that was before mine, but that was just because you had.
Well, when Honda started here, we did not, all of our firefighters were not certified to work at Honda. So we didn't have all the EMTs, hazmat, work rescue, and so forth. So Chief Chastain tried to get us to get those certs so we could work at Honda. We didn't have enough certified firefighters to work at Honda for their qualifications. So to do that, he said, if you get these three things, we'll add the 250 in there as an incentive for you to go get those certifications, and that incentivized guys to go get those. So we have been receiving that 250 incentive cert, if you will, since that time, since 2008. Now, fast forward, every firefighter we have hired since then, we have said, you have to have these certs to be hired within a year, because one of our expectations is you will work at Honda in a rotation. So that is where now we have come to the point where almost every firefighter has those certifications. But it wasn't like that in 2008. It was a way to get these guys to work at Honda. They didn't want to work at Honda. They didn't want to go work in a factory, if you will. So that was the way to incentivize them to do that. And so we have been receiving that 250 on our bonus pay, or their cert pay, whatever you want to call it, to do that. If that makes sense.
In a sense, we've outlived his life expectancy.
Well, and if you could say that we required all firefighters to have those certs. You know, it is nice to have that on there. I will say I would stick up for that, and I would hope you would keep that in there, but, you know, that's just me.
So what about as a compromise? That's what we're asking.
Yeah, you know,
Right, has that number changed since 2008?
You're saying what if we gave 2,000 on the base? And then they're still gonna get the 3% plus longevity, and then another 2,000 on the base, but then those four certs go away.
well, I'm sorry. I'm assuming the compromise is if we don't do that, then we don't get the certs on the base. Is that the compromise?
That's the suggestion on the table right now, not saying that that's the only guillotine or something like, it's this or
Okay.
that, it's just.
I just wondered what that was.
That was,
No, you'd still get the top part of the, certs on the base, but you would get,
Instead of 2250,
you just get 2,000.
2,000.
plus the 3%, plus longevity. And then it helps, then it hits the base, though it's not, which helps retirement.
I mean, I feel like it served its purpose.
It did.
I mean, yeah, it's like you're losing $250, but in the long run, you're gaining a whole lot more. So,
Too many more going for the extra $250.
They haven't done it since 2008.
So, and you're saying that exact cert was, $250, is that correct?
It went up 3 at one time, I think.
So cert incentive pay, we had $47.50, last year. And if you take that by 30, that's 158, so I'm not exactly sure how we were paying people
We'll
200.
take it by 27, right, or maybe it was 27 or less than 27, right?
And is some of that paid out of the Honda fund as well?
Take it by 24, yeah.
24, Jamie?
Yeah.
Six off,
Yeah,
six.
'cause
So that would be, that's 197,
Then-
so.
Well, then if you had 3 that didn't, so then, sorry, 21. We'll go back. We'll just keep going backwards.
Make the math work.
We'll figure it out.
Yeah, so we said 21, I'm sorry.
Yeah, 21.
I got too many numbers.
Figures don't lie, but liars figure, right?
All right, so yeah, that would be, there's your 226. I was
Okay.
gonna say, 'cause if it was not that, then I would say we would say 2,100. Cause I didn't realize, trying to figure out how many people were actually.
Well, if you
getting
had 3 that don't have it, and then you have 6 paid out of Honda, that gives you, that's where the 21
One
comes from.
comes from.
So if everybody's okay with that, then maybe that's the suggestion. We take those cert pays out, we add 2,000 to the base, but then we also, the provision of that is we also have to make sure we put something in writing that maintaining those certifications is a requirement. We can't just say, well, that's my base, and then not get paid extra to do that, it's still a requirement of the job to do those things.
And do we,
What's the plan with the 3 that don't have? Just allow that to be.
I don't know that we go back and penalize them, I think they're,
thank you for your 20+ years of service.
yeah, that's.
Just making sure we get it.
Yeah, no, we gotta figure out how to word that, and maybe we can work with Chris to figure out how to word that. I'm not saying we go back and penalize them at this point in time, but at the same time, we don't, here's the other side of this, and I don't know how to, this may come out the wrong way, but if you've got another employee that's been there 20+ years and they've got all the certs, the expectation is they maintain those certifications, right? And so how do you do that fairly, or do you have to just go back and tell those 3, you've gotta get those certs? I'm just thinking through this out loud.
and we can work through that internally too. But again, I'll welcome you guys to help with that, whether we want to do, we already have a contract set that the new individuals sign, whether you want to try to do this via contract with keeping these certs, whether we do it just as a standing order or a policy that everybody signs off on, or how we want to take receipt of this, that will give assurance that these are going to be maintained, and then how we're going to do that.
One other option is to grandfather 3 in.
Which is what currently what the contract wants to do.
It happens all the time.
It does, I just wanna make sure we write it up the right way, but then, it's not intended to, just gotta figure out how we, wanna disincentivize the people that have taken and made the effort to go get it, right?
Right.
That's the other piece, so.
Anything else else on that? If not, we will head that direction through the salary ordinance, is how we would actually, I believe that Reedy Financials advertise the budget appropriately to absorb those costs into there. If not, I'll continue to work with them on that. But
They
we'll,
did.
yeah. And we will adopt that direction then through the salary ordinance. Any further conversation on that? Okay. Other topics, the five we'd like to discuss. A big portion of,
I was just gonna say, you want to talk about the fire truck now?
Oh, sure.
Sorry, kick your man while he's down.
Counselors, in front of you, I have prepared a document. I believe everybody should have a copy of that. If you don't, let me know. Kevin, do you have one?
I had it, here it is. You got to the file.
Sorry.
Next one up here, if anyone needs one.
That's for your invisible.
That's the only friend I have.
We had talked about, I initially suggested potentially repairing and then just go ahead and replacing it and trying to make it worth more money. I have since come to my senses via these quotes that are attached. That's an absolute not capable thing to do. What failed on the, as you see on here, is a list of major issues that was done via DOT DOT inspection, as well as the current edition of an NFPA statute or standard that we follow here locally and with our insurance.
Not entirely. I said not entirely, but that's for a matter of a different discussion. Since we have
The
two
different trucks.
we don't follow that standard on the.
Oh, that's,
That'll be
yes,
a topic of a different discussion.
and I do not buy those. Repairs, the cylinders are extremely expensive. To repair the cylinders and get the truck in, it's going to be around $124,000. I personally don't think that's very fiscally responsible because the apparatus is still terminal. It is still a terminally ill apparatus at 30 years old. Detroit Diesel no longer makes that motor. We would have to buy a used motor and try to part it and piece it to fix the things that are wrong with it. I have attached a copy of tires. Tires have to be replaced every 7 years per NFPA. So there is a quote as on the spreadsheet, but I did the quote as well as the requirements from Tommy's Diesel. The cylinder replacements, I did not list all the cylinders. The major cylinders that need to be repaired are the left and right extension cylinders, the lift cylinder, 2 lift cylinders, and 2 master cylinders. And then in the back is basically just comps or comparable quotes to what the truck is being sold for in other areas. So there's anything from, ours is a 92, they're selling it for $30,000. They're selling a 91, a different company is selling it for $90,000 or $89,500. And then an older truck, an 85, is only selling for $15,000. So just to show you kind of where that ballpark is with that. That is to you know, where we could go. So my recommendation is that, again, that truck is just, you know, basically a scrap truck. We sell it as is, in condition that it is, and we try to get what we can out of it. As far as the $1.2 million to replace it, we have still not heard back on our appraisal of our current ladder truck, which is a 75 or 77 foot aerial apparatus. It is a newer apparatus, so it is going to be worth a little bit more money. That money is not in there, but on page 2 under financing of the executive summary, cumulatively we have $1,245,797.43 in cumulative fire and then what I would call cumulative Honda. Currently in the CIP for next year is $50,000 for the replacement of my Ford. If we deduct that amount by $5,000 and have $45,000 for a vehicle, light, sirens, and graphics, That would put us right about 1.2 million as cash on hand out of those two accounts. It would take those accounts down to pretty much nothing, which currently we can discuss that as far as how much you would like to see left in CUME, if anything. If we keep that the same, cash on hand and minus the 50,000 would be 1,195,797.43. So CIP has 1.2 million scheduled for that apparatus. So either way, we have pretty much, without getting the appraisal back on the ladder, that the ladder that's we're selling, we have cash on hand to purchase this aerial apparatus with no money from general fund or geo bond or anything like that, if we would choose to take those accounts to pretty much zero.
I'm sure selling the other ladder is the right
Thing to do. You know, currently that ladder is, it's too short for our responses to the schools, as well as downtown, as well as the industrial park. You know, we're looking at replacing it with 100 foot, which is what the tower ladder is now. With having both aerials at one station, it kind of defeats the purpose.
So if we
Which-
sold
which
it,
area-
what would we expect to get out of that, you said?
I'd refer to Troy. Do we have a,
You could look at anywhere from $150,000 to $300,000 in overhead.
And then what do you sell it, like, if you get another engine versus selling it for that, right? I mean, we bought an engine, it's, what are we talking?
How much is an engine?
Yeah, we
Around
just
five.
bought two, but don't take those for what?
Right, we would need around 500 to 550,000 for an engine.
So, I mean, if we're gonna
Not
sell that
separate.
at I mean, even at 200,000, 250,000, we'd be better off keeping it and using it as an engine.
We could turn it into an engine, we could. We're apparatus heavy the way it is, and obviously apparatus costs.
playing my theme song, Mark?
We're apparatus heavy the way we are now, and apparatus has to be replaced every 20 to 25 years, so by thinning out that apparatus, we would save money long-term. Tires have to be replaced every 7 years, whether we use it or not, to stay within standard and stay within parameters to be insured. It would be used, but it would not be used frequently, it would be used infrequently. And as we look to, do other things and look at our station situation and things like that, that's one less bay we have to have as well. We have enough engines currently for our ISO points. One ladder is suffice. We actually give credit for a reserve engine because we have enough engines the way it is. The ladder is actually considered a service truck, so it's actually an engine plus a service truck. So it would not hurt our ISO score in any way. Apparatus wise, we don't get credit for having more than enough apparatus. We only get credit for having enough. It would just be how much of the CUME money to be utilized. Whether it's all of it, whether it's whatever the appraisal comes back at, minus that amount. I don't know if that's something that has to be decided
Yeah, of course, this is,
today, or if it's,
this is just the appropriation of the funds, not authorization to purchase. That would obviously come through Board Works as a purchase like any other.
Sealed bid purchase, yeah. And as that time moves closer, if that's, if the money is appropriated, then we can have that discussion then on.
How old would you say that truck was?
That truck is 1992. It'll turn 30 this November.
question is, are you okay with the way that it's been proposed, both by the chief and in the financials, as to pay for some of it out of Cume Fire, some of the other fund? And probably be the trade-ins, the cells, and then the other geo conversation we had a couple weeks ago. Is that something that we could use some of those funds for as well?
Could you have more chili suppers?
We thought about bringing one back this year.
In October, isn't it?
Yeah.
We got
Fire prevention.
Fire prevention week.
My life, then somebody called, throw the pandemic card.
Was it mandated masks at our place again?
Oh, yeah. We could try to eat chili through a mask, I guess.
I think the way the research that you've done, it's a good start to the conversation and getting started over the next year, because it's obviously something you would have to order.
Correct, and when I last talked to the manufacturers, at our trade show, it's 12 to 14 months, once you place the order. So, I mean, we have, some places do 50% upfront, you can get some of a discount, some places don't do any upfront. But this will not be a rush purchase by any stretch of the imagination.
So what are we gonna do with that ladder truck in the meantime? I mean, obviously, it's not fit to use.
That, it's gonna sit in our station and I guess look pretty.
I mean, if we're gonna, are we saying we're gonna scrap it? Why would
We could, right, exactly, and we wouldn't, if this, I don't wanna make any decisions until the budget is proposed and we're set. Once that happens, I would most likely get some photos, have our apparatus guy get some photos, type it up, and then put it out for, sealed bid as a condition as is, and see who, some smaller departments that don't follow, NFPA, they might want it. Somebody's a collector of fire trucks, they might, I don't know. But I would try to get, take it to highest bidder and see. Mark's had good luck with sealed bids on trucks before that we didn't think were, worth much. We've gotten some, so I mean, maybe we could, in a sealed bid type situation, maybe somebody would be more apt to put a little more to it. And then we can discuss whether we accept those bids or not.
Are we okay with what was proposed? If so, submit that.
I think it goes to sealed bid. We should reserve the right to deny any bid also.
Except for reject.
Reject.
Yeah. Set either a minimum or or reject.
Well, you have other factors that come into that, want somebody to buy a fire truck that's gonna sit out on Main Street.
Right. Yeah.
Sarah will tell them we're going to do contract. Okay, anything else on that? Okay, that's good direction for you to head as we finish up the budget season. Any other topics you all would like to discuss?
Josh, you can get us some information on costs, right? We're paying for.
I have that. So over the last 18 months, I guess 2020, 2021, these numbers are a little bit older, end of July. Between MadTech, HOP Communications, and Summit, we've spent about $25,000 on services. There are other IT services that we pay for our email and ETC, Great Plains, but we would have those expenses anyway because we're going to continue to have email and internet service. So those are the services for the most part that would be substantially reduced, if not eliminated, with
Cost.
about 24,560.
So you're saying it's a wash, but it's better service?
Yes, I think we would, and Josh has been substantially informed.
No, I was just trying to make, I know you were telling us it's gonna be better service if we go to the one provider. I was just trying to figure out what the cost was, because I'm misunderstanding. That's what you're saying, right?
I'm sorry.
If we go to this one provider, it's gonna be better service than what we're getting now, but it's gonna be about the same cost as what we were paying.
So I think it depends how you, like what we're talking about now would specifically be like the employee ad, correct? Same thing.
Yeah, so Yes, it was.
Go ahead.
If the conversation is about Josh and an IT, county, city IT department, which includes the addition of an employee. They would be a county employee, just like Josh is. We have a interlocal agreement currently for 911 that includes Josh. We are splitting those out so that he is his own department. The county has approved that, and the county's budgetary process has also approved the addition of an employee to assist with all city, county IT issues. Currently, we're limited to public safety, police, fire, sheriff, and dispatch. And we've been paying 62.5%, I guess, of that. Whereas this setup with Josh and potentially the new employee would be more 50-50, like we would contribute half of his budget and he would assist all of our departments. The county would contribute 50% of the budget and they would service all of their departments. We would keep separate line items for expenses. If we were to buy laptops, we would pay for those because they're ours. So then it really flips to, does that make sense? Because we do hire contractors to do on-site, for lack of better terms, physical and programming work. And now we would like to bring that in-house with Josh and potentially a new employee to provide us with better services. They're familiar with our different components. We had to work through Josh in order to get the Wi-Fi for City Hall so that it was all on the same network. And Josh has been tremendously helpful through this whole process. I think it's a really good ad for us, just because everything's going to get more complicated. It's on board of works.
It's on board of works.
I'm sorry. Oh.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
It's like page 4.
What was our cost?
New month, new hire cost, 35, half the salary.
Yeah, but I think,
I don't have a specific budget.
I can't remember this, the number that was included for you guys should have had that number with, like, that for all.
It did, but I think the South, I can't access my computer to say.
Yeah, it's right at, 35, 33.5 is kind of the rough number, just based on the current, like, calculation. I think purpose is, kind of, like, right.
It's different.
Maybe that's what it was.
Okay.
Yeah, because it was 60 and plus 2,000, so yeah.
I don't have any issue with it.
I remember what were the other concern. I'm trying to remember what else was there anything else? From our last time.
They had been up on what we talked about.
That's like since a few times.
Those were the, those were the big ones. Okay. Anything else?
circle back to the interns.
Oh, okay.
Page 1 and page 9. Then one on page 9, so highlighted in red, we need some conversation.
Is that the one in Ron's office? Yeah, it's there. Yeah.
And there's two under the mayor.
Well, no, 1 and 2, that was 12,000.
Well, assuming that's two.
Yeah, that would be two. I still continue to advocate for them in both positions. I think they're great assets to the communities. I think they do good work for us. I think it's a great educational opportunity for what has been historically local high school talent or college, first, second, third-year college students from Greensburg, Decatur County. Ron, have you ever had anybody not the county?
Well, I've never actually had an intern, but when we worked at it this spring a little bit too late, I actually had